The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode.
It's the summer of 93 at 30.
Welcome to the Brandon Peters Show and the continued adventures of the summer of 93 at 30 series. A weekend by weekend look at the movies released during the summer of 1993. As always, with me from the Wrap, it is Scott Mendelson.
Greetings! This week we'll be discussing one of the best kids' films of the 90s and one of the worst kids' films of the 90s. And some other film that's so bad that the worst kids' film in the 90s might not be the worst movie of the week.
Get ready, folks. Oh, also ready here is from We Live Entertainment Variety. Why So Blue? He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram. He's watching Twin Peaks currently. The host of Out and Out with Aaron and Abe. It's not Abe, the other one, Aaron Neuwirth.
I just want you to know, Brandon, you are not alone.
I am here with you. Though you are far away, we are zoomed to stay. All right.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I got a clap from Scott.
That's
all right.
that. You earned that one, my friend.
All right. Today we're discussing 4 films released over, well, not all 4, but released over July 16th through 18th weekend, 1993. This is, for some reason on paper, just having the films listed, I was not looking forward to this episode. After watching the films, I'm very looking forward to this episode. So this is gonna be a wild one. This is gonna be you remember, summer '93 at 3. Oh yeah, but you remember the Hocus Pocus episode? And it's like, yeah, that one.
What I like is that all these films are about family.
Yeah.
Christ,
In
he's right.
many different ways. We had some variety of family.
I said what I meant.
Yep.
Smash that subscribe button.
Hit it. All right. But before you do, do it first. And now we'll head on to the news.
When I wake up, don't you know I'm gonna be the man who brings the news to you.
This unknown amateur rider from Ayr in Scotland is now smashing the most coveted record of them all. His radical style, his homemade bicycle. The world hour record is going to fall to Graham O'Brien by the end of this lap. There's no doubt about that now. 51.596 kilometres. Francesco Mozo's record of 8 years ago has gone to a rider on a homemade bicycle.
All right. On this day in July 13th, or this week, July 13th, the All-Star MVP is Kirby Puckett from the Minnesota Twins, the baseball All-Star game, that is. On July 16th, President Lesuba calls emergency rule in Congo Brazzaville.
Wow.
In other news, Michael Crichton would announce the next film adaptation of his would be Congo. Not really, just...
That's an ironic coincidence.
As long as somebody's eating some sesame cake somewhere.
Yeah.
We actually watched Congo a couple of weeks ago, just on a whim, and it's still fun.
When you say we, do you mean like Papa Mendelson's like, I'm putting this on, damn it, and your kids are like,
Actually, yes, because that Ethan is a fan of kaiju and that kind of genre, and he obviously loves the Jurassic pictures, so I thought this would be a natural evolution, and we had a good time with it.
Yeah. Also, that's on our list, short list of out and out commentaries.
Potential commentaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe we've done it by now. We haven't done it.
We have not.
We have not done it by now.
Called a major audible in June.
Within, because I Love LA ends in April, so there would be like
I love the Congo.
a couple months ago. So all right. Also that same day, San Francisco outfielder Darren Lewis sets a record of 267 consecutive errorless games.
Good for him.
Guessing he didn't make it to 268.
268 must have been so funny.
No. July 17th, Graham O'Brien breaks the world hour cycling record, riding 51.596 or 596 kilometers in Old Faithful at Hamar Velodrome in Norway. Remember, everybody had the shirts like Hamar, or Velodrome.
Playing the old
Who
card.
run? Yeah, 2 men enter, 1 bicyclist leaves. All right. July 18th, Afghan president
Spoke for yourself.
Ishaq Khan and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif resign. Okay.
Oh, so they quit. All right.
Yeah. And then also that same day, similar news, British Opens men's golf, Royal St. George's GC, Australian Greg Norman fires final round 64, which is 6 under par, to win his second Open title, 2 strokes ahead of Englishman Nick Faldo.
Yeah, well.
That had nothing to do with the previous story.
No, that was the point.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Now we move on to the deaths of this week.
Yes.
All right. Actor Robert Strong. Edwin Rick Baker of Rick's Report and the AIDS Diary. Dan Eldon, a photojournalist, was killed in Somalia working for Reuters at age 22.
Oh, hell.
Auto racer Davey Illison, Russian inventor Vladimir Baramin, and producer John Beck. And this week, the birthdays, a couple of Scott's favorites, Korean pop singer Taemin and Filipino professional basketball player Scotty Thompson were born.
For the record, I've never heard of the Korean singer. Dear God, don't send the BTS people after me.
Or do you want them after you?
Not unless they smash that subscribe button.
They smashed that subscribe button. Perhaps you could have a
finish that thought.
Well, Scott's already married, so he can't have them sing a song at their wedding banquet.
Because he went for it. That's what he did.
You are cordially invited to a very special wedding.
Now repeat after me. I, oui,
Oui, oui.
and you, oui, Tang,
Oui, oui.
in sickness and in health till death do us part.
Till sickness and death.
The bride is calm. The groom is cool. And the parents are the picture of happiness. There's only one problem. Everyone wants to kiss the bride. Except the groom. What started as a little white lie
Don't you see? This way Weiwei can stay in the States and paint, and you can finally get your parents off your back.
grew into a performance
This was your big idea.
of amazing proportions.
As a married couple, you'll be able to take a big tax break.
The Samuel Goldwyn Company proudly presents
Weiwei, what do you think you're doing?
the most outrageous social event of the season. The Wedding Banquet.
The Wedding Banquet, directed by Ang Lee, written by Ang Lee, Neil Peng, and James Shamas, starring Winston Chow, Mary Chin, Ale Gua, Si Hong Lung, and Mitchell Lichtenstein.
Isn't Ang Lee the guy that made that weird Hulk movie?
Mitchell, yeah, that weirdo.
Mitchell Lichtenstein. China's Mitchell Lichtenstein.
Yes. Yes. To satisfy his nagging parents, a gay landlord and a female tenant agree to a marriage of convenience, but his parents arrive to visit and things get out of hand. I'd never seen this one before.
Me neither.
Blind spot. Scott, had you seen The Wedding Banquet before?
I had not. It was also a blind spot.
So for me, this was the best movie of the week. Right off the top.
Yes.
This one didn't open. This one opened a couple weeks down the road, but in terms of balancing out our schedule, and since it only opened in a couple theaters, maybe just one, it played, I moved it to this week. So we're starting with it.
More like the rehearsal dinner then.
Right. There you go. We're on it this week. So this is an excellent movie. It's well shot. It's scripted, directed. The acting's a little weaker, but it all together works, I think. And I don't know. I was just floored kind of by this movie. I kind of didn't know much about it. I kind of went in as blind as I could, and I was surprised by a lot of it. What'd you think, Aaron?
I'm pretty blind on most, like, I haven't seen Pushing Hands. I haven't seen Men Eat Drink Woman. So, like, early Ang Lee, I'm surprisingly haven't caught up on, which is a shame because I really like Ang Lee. Like, even with his bigger swings as of late, as far as his use of technology goes, I think he's just our best working journeyman director outside of, like, Spielberg. So it's nice to catch up with his early films. It certainly brought him acclaim. I believe this and the next one are both, like, Academy Award nominees for foreign language, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I believe so.
He's kind of like a Zemeckis type, where he's like constantly, even when he's doing something normal, he's still pushing a technical boundary.
I'd say now he is.
Yeah, now he is.
He's
Well,
emerged as Zemeckis.
like, I mean, it's not like Used Cars was doing that. Like it. You get to that place where
the ice storm in 10,000 frames a second.
Yeah, it's when you get to that place of success that you can do those things. So
I hear you. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I do like this movie quite a bit. I think it's just, I think the writing is its strongest aspect for sure.
Yeah.
I think. And I went in blind. I didn't know what this was. I was just like, I'll just watch the movie. I'm not going to look into it beforehand. It's like, it's one of Ang Lee's earlier films. I know it's had its share of acclaim. Let's see what we got. And it like, I was happy that it felt like he saw Green Card and it's like, this is how you do this story. And like went really in a different direction with it. I especially didn't know, especially for a 90s film, that it was, about essentially a gay couple that's dealing with, among the other elements that are in this movie, and thinking of how progressive that is for a Taiwanese filmmaker tackling that sort of story set in America, primarily spoken in Chinese. Like, it's, yeah, I like the fact that he was able to combine all these elements to make a thematically rich picture that has a lot to say about the nature, domesticity, family, coupling, relationships, what have you. It's also quite funny at times.
Yeah,
it very much is a comedy drama, which I appreciated. Like, the comedy registers well when it wants to be funny. And seeing like tradition come out, especially when you're dealing with a lot of, like, people that have emigrated over to America or what have you, seeing like what that is to, like, be able to still bring over culture while being in America and dealing with, like, things like a wedding banquets and, like, what that means to, in a way that I don't generally get to see it, like seeing things presented in a certain way. So among other reasons, yeah, I know I really enjoyed this movie.
Yep. Scott?
I was quite fond of it too. I had never seen it. This was a blind spot. And yes, obviously it's amusing to see a film in 1993 featuring this subject matter being presented as at least somewhat mainstream picture. And it's like, again, this just goes to my, and I know I talk about this a lot, but like, we sort of like stopped even trying to do this for a good 20 years in the 2000s and 2010s, and we're only now kind of catching up to what was mainstream in the 90s, for God's sakes.
And that's another thing too. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like,
no, you're right.
Philadelphia is like a few months later, and that's like the epitome of, like, it's about AIDS and and someone has to die, and it's the kind of stereotypical thing, where this movie is just like, they just happen to be this way. Like, if he wasn't gay, and if it, like, that, I can see it would affect it, but it'd be not a huge difference in, like, the story they're trying to tell. Like, there's ways to make that work still, but it's like, it's
and 3 years later you have The Birdcage,
yeah,
which stars, I mean, apparently he wasn't out at the time, but I wasn't shocked when I found out Nathan Lane was gay. But, and again, it just, and I know I talk about this a lot because it's, frankly, it's very annoying, is that we kind of hit a giant pause button for 20 years about advancing forward in this kind of quote unquote representation.
Right.
And I'm not huge on the film Bros, but the one scene that I just think is awesome is where Billy Eichner talks about how progress was so slow that his parents didn't survive to see it. And that, whether he's talking specifically about this kind of thing or whether he's just being very specific to his own lived-in experience, again, we were making these kind of films in the early 90s. We were having gay weddings on Friends, that terribly problematic show, Friends, in the early fucking 90s.
Well, they also just were allowed to be, like, I don't remember, like, we had black movies, we had gay movies, and it wasn't a, you need to support this or, else.
Yes.
And there were also, at the other end of the thing, there wasn't like a huge protest either.
No.
The assholes were just like, I'm not gonna go. They just wouldn't go see it. They wouldn't sit and make a huff about it. Now
Well,
you got to make it known.
To a certain extent, we didn't have the internet, and more importantly, we didn't have this weird monetization of the online troll movement that exists today, where it's like you have disingenuous assholes on YouTube that decry every new franchise film as being, I hate to use this word as a slur, but as they do, woke, even though, being woke just means being aware of the world around you, blah, that, no, I mean, yeah. I'm not going to
explain it more,
anyway.
Scott, please. Thank you.
What was that?
Explain it more, Scott.
Yeah, I'll let you finish that one. But I mean, point being is, it's and on the other hand, I think whether intentional or not, I think a lot of the big franchise pictures use this coordinated hate campaign as sort of a deflective shield against criticism. So it's almost a parasitic relationship, for lack of a better word. But point being, when you didn't have that, you had films like Anaconda and Rush Hour and Waiting to Exhale and The Wedding Banquet and The Birdcage and In and Out that were just almost casually inclusive. And while some of them made that inclusivity a bigger part of their artistic/commercial goals, they were also allowed to just be movies.
The other obvious point here, and we should talk more about The Wedding Banquet, but is there was just less options back then. So I mean
that too, and that's part of what pisses me off about Hollywood waiting so long to get back in the swing of things. Is like if they hadn't had their head up their ass for 20 years trying to find the next Hugh Jackman or the next Tom Cruise, the diversification that we're kind of seeing now might have actually happened at a time when it might have actually preached to the unconverted, where people would have seen this kind of content because there was nothing else on to watch. And now it's so diversified and fragmented and that, like, it's great that people that want to see themselves on screen get to see themselves on screen. But I genuinely think we've lost out in having that stuff be almost mandated as mainstream entertainment by people that otherwise would not be watching it. I hope that makes sense. But that being said, moving on beyond that, what struck me about the picture is when I think of an Ang Lee movie, I think of a somewhat somber affair about people that are very emotionally inhibited who, are doomed to go their entire lives without expressing how they feel about the people they care about most until it's too late.
That's why Hulk is your cover banner photo on most of your profiles, right, Scott?
Yes, exactly. And this, conversely, is there's a certain, pardon the cliche, closeted nature to the melodrama, but you do have characters that are open about their feelings and tell each other what they need to know, especially at the end of the movie, when, it's a rare Ang Lee movie where people say what they need to say before it's too late. And I found that weirdly refreshing in his filmography.
Actually, that's an interesting fact. Yes, that's true.
And I don't know whether they're joking about Hulk, but I absolutely consider that a version of that.
I was not kidding. I was just kidding about the idea of you.
No, I know
constantly, but that's the extreme version of Ang Lee as far as because the comic movie you have to be extreme.
Yeah,
but it very much is.
Well, that's why I'm saying the Zemeckis thing. He doesn't just do a comic book movie. He does a comic book movie like no one else has done it like before, with different visual kind of ideas with his storytelling.
For sure. Yeah,
I
can accept this.
Back to his Wedding Banquet film.
Romancing the Stone is no Crouching Tiger, but I hear you.
Right. This gets into some it's funny, and then it takes a swing into some really dramatic territory that isn't like out of nowhere. It doesn't it builds as it's coming through, because you could see some between the two leads that are getting married. The looks on their faces of there's no words, but there's such a guilt and disgust in themselves and what's going on, but still having to keep a charade that's kind of incredibly put on here that doesn't feel out of the ordinary. And then things just take this downturn. And there's this awesome moment that I like, that after everything's gone to shit, and then he finds out his father's in the hospital. He had a stroke. And then it's when he's entering the hospital in the hall, Lee shoots it it's like a incognito horror movie as he's walking until he approaches his mother, and then the aesthetic kind of goes right back to this movie we're in. but I was amazed I was like, oh wow, this is really taking this new visual cue that kind of just led up to the mom. But man, there's a lot of good scenes with people talking together. A believable conceit where she gets pregnant or whatever. It's like, okay, but it like things keep getting worse and not better because of this charade, rather than just telling everybody and it gets worse in some darker ways. And then they have this huge wedding ceremony that you're just like, oh my God. And this is all, and I love how there's that table with the gay friends that they're all kind of like, but enjoying their time, the whole thing. And there's a great scene with the father and the boyfriend toward the end. They share things. But then I also thought about it after this movie, and I was like, his parents, even though they were both pretty acceptive, suck. Because they knew the whole time they know about it. There's like, but we still have to have our goddamn banquet. We couldn't just say like, they could. It just, I don't know. That was kind of,
it's uncharted territory, though. In a lot of ways. Like that's and there was a whole rigmarole to get to this place to begin.
Right. It's kind of, and this one kind of has the New York feel of like an Ed Berns movie a little bit. I don't know if he was quite at this state. I don't know, Edward. When did Brothers McMullen come out?
95, I think.
95.
A couple years
so
later, I think.
He wasn't there yet. So Ed Berns movies have this New York that kind of feels like this movie's New York. And I don't know, this is like a high recommend if someone's never seen it. Like I didn't see this coming, that I was gonna like be like, oh wow, this is amazing.
No, I mean,
because the third act just seems to go really into soap opera plotting. That's not an insult. It works.
No. Yeah.
But it's sort of like you think how the story is going to end with everybody having their big confession and it's okay because we love each other and we're family and there's a little of that, but it takes a couple figure eight turns to get there.
Well, it has the one where his father can't travel because of his blood pressure or something, and that's something I didn't see coming. And then it's really taking its toll on everybody. It's like the boyfriend's like, "Fuck, I'm going out. I'm gonna go get me some tail from somebody else who's not married to somebody." But I really, like it's interesting because you see like everything turn on everybody for these like wishes that they had. Like, can I just get my parents in and out of here, make them happy in a charade? And this girl's like, well, I'll have my rent paid. Like, I'll get my green card. Like, was the green card worth all this, Like, that's kind of what it shows through all that. But this is a fantastic little movie here.
It needed about an extra 100 frames a second.
Yeah.
It needed a cameo from Andy McDowell and Gerard Depardieu. Like that was really
every movie needs a cameo from Gerard Depardieu. Yeah.
Especially if they're like set on planes.
I mean, I joke, but Billy Lynn's long halftime walk just blew my mind when I saw it in 120 frames back in 2016.
I mean, the thing that I'll say about that movie is the actual walk delivers.
There you go. Yeah,
it really does. It's a long walk. They had a lot of good stuff in it.
Yeah, the war scenes looked a little fakey when I saw it with the Vin Diesel stuff, but yeah.
But no, it felt it's the closest I've seen to like virtual reality movies in a skewed way. But anyway, that's another time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, talking like just wrapping up on this movie, like Brandon, I agree with you. Like I wouldn't say necessarily it's a surprise. I'm like, well, it's an Ang Lee movie. I know you're saying, but like it made me happy that it's like he's just always been very good. And I'm more excited to check out Pushing Hands and Eat, Drink, Man, Woman now, just to be caught up on all of his films. I don't necessarily need to revisit Ride the Devil. What is it? This is the Fire Skeet Ulrich.
I believe it's called. I think you're right.
Ride the Devil, or is it? Because there's Ride with the Devil.
No, I think it's Ride the Devil. I think it is Ride the Devil.
It's Ride with the Devil. That's the
Yes, Ride with the Devil in 1999.
That's the Peter Fonda movie.
Oh, it is Ride with the Devil.
Yes, with Jeffrey Wright, Tobey Maguire, Skeet Ulrich.
Is it the same title as the Peter Fonda movie then?
That I don't know.
Oh, Jewel is in it. I remember that. I remember that. It was a big deal because Jewel was in the movie. And Don Shanks, Michael Myers from Halloween 5 as George. He was in that movie. So
No, no, I don't think there is a movie called Ride the Devil.
What do I think? What's the has devil in the title? The Peter Fonda one, where he's in an RV and they're being chased after by a cult.
Oh yeah.
It's a kick-ass movie. I cannot
Race with the Devil.
Race with the Devil.
That's
there
it.
it is.
Yep.
Very similar. All right.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. So
okay,
cool. But yeah, that was the Wedding Banquet. Yes, currently when we watched it was on Hoopla. Maybe it's still there.
And because it was like the first or second week of the Summer of '93 podcast, I will note that I am beyond psyched for whatever the hell Ang Lee has up his sleeve for a Bruce Lee biopic.
Yeah.
We'll revisit this episode, the first episode of this before we watch that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just rewatch or whatever Dragon the Release story, we'll just re-listen to this podcast. That'll make a lot more sense.
And we can say that Brokeback Mountain was not his first rodeo. Not at all.
Oh.
Like and subscribe. All right, so we move on now to the television ratings for this week in 1993.
Wednesday, a new mystery, a lethal love triangle, catch the killer, plus America's Loch Ness Monster. We have the video and pictures. Unsolved Mysteries, NBC, Wednesday.
What were people watching on TV? Of course,
Home Improvement.
Number one, Home Improvement. Home Improvement beat the Major League Baseball All-Star Game on CBS.
Oh,
it was likely a rerun of Home Improvement too. Suck it, baseball. Number 3, Primetime Live on ABC, followed by 2020 on ABC, 60 Minutes on CBS, Unsolved Mysteries on NBC coming in at number 6.
Yeah,
solved.
Taking in those summer ratings.
Some unexplained deaths. Yes.
Heck yeah, love it. Number 7, Roseanne on ABC. Number 8, 48 Hours on CBS. Number 9, Murder, She Wrote on CBS. And number 10, a TV movie called With a Vengeance. It's about an amnesiac nanny and her love-struck employer try to follow the clues leading into her past, little suspecting that a serial killer is already waiting at the end of the trail. It's directed by Michael Switzer and stars Melissa Gilbert, Jack Scala, Matthew Lawrence, Michael Gross, and
Jeremy Irons as the nanny?
No. But yeah, that was Roger Aaron Brown is in it.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a movie. It's from 1992, so it was a rerun of a television movie. Take place in the top 10. Very, very popular. Something that does not place in the top 10 this week is our next movie, Benefit of the Doubt.
Call the cops, please! For Christ's sake, look into my arms. That's not even...
I spent 22 years in prison.
What's his name?
Frank Braswell.
He walked 2 days ago.
Where did he walk?
Man, we can't give out that information. That'd be in violation of his rights.
Right. Well, what about my rights, for Christ's sake?
I can keep him off your property, but I can't keep him out of town. Beyond the fear.
He's coming after us. I testified against him. He said, Daddy won't forget this. I saw him today. You see him coming, you run the other way. Promise me you'll stay away from him.
Beyond the questions.
What does he want from me?
Hello, Karen.
I want you to leave us alone.
It was an accident that night, baby. It didn't happen the way you think. And beyond the suspicions.
Eat!
Lie the facts. You think I'm a snake, Pete? Donald Sutherland, Amy Irving, Graham Greene. Benefit of the doubt.
And when you buy 2 units of Benefit of the Doubt, take advantage of savings up to 11%. See your distributor for details.
Directed by John Heap, written by Michael Lieber, Jeffrey Pullman, and Christopher Kaiser.
This needed 3 writers.
Oh, yeah.
They clearly did not share each other's work.
It does feel like 3 movies at times, so that tracks.
Starring Donald Sutherland, Amy Irving, Ryder Strong, Summer of '82 alum from Grease 2, Christopher McDonald, Graham Greene, Gisela Kovac, and Patricia Tallman. A convicted wife murderer returns 22 years later to seek revenge on the daughter who helped convict him.
That's not an accurate plot description.
That is not. That's not one you would want to put like in your. You would want the synopsis to be a little bit more vague.
He tries to reconnect with his estranged daughter.
You know, should she give him the benefit of the doubt? This movie is not the best movie we watched this week. It's not the worst movie we watched this week. Okay. But goddamn, it's one of the most entertaining movies we watched this week. I've been like, I told Aaron, I'm like, this is some wild shit going on in this movie. And then he texted me, he's like, I got to this part, and I was like, holy shit. Scott, we'll start with you on benefit of the doubt.
No.
Oh, we're not finding the secret way that you praise this thing. You're just not into it.
Oh,
no,
man.
This is no House of Cards.
House of Cards, Scott Mendelson.
It's not a 3-star, well-acted melodrama.
I mean, this is no fucking Book of Henry, let me tell you.
Tommy Lee Jones showed up. It was fine.
No, it's. I mean, part of the problem is, again, the way the film is presented, and there's no doubt. Haha, the joke title. There's no doubt whatsoever that he is guilty of killing her mother, and he will eventually turn violent. So the first, and while that might theoretically create some bomb under the table suspense, the film doesn't play it that way. The film wants you to think that, he might be innocent, and there's a coming of age drama, and they're coming to terms with the father coming back to their life, but he's so creepy from the word go that even just the opening narration when he's asking for parole it's pardon a silly comparison, he's doing Anthony Hopkins Lecter when he should be doing Brian Cox Lecter. And because of that, you're just waiting and frankly very bored until he finally starts killing people. And even then, he kills one person, and then he takes his sweet time before he gets to killing more people. And by the time he starts killing more people, the movie's basically over.
I guess we're just spoiling this movie all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Don't watch it.
That's it. To backtrack, I'm picturing Succession Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. And that's just very entertaining to me. Fuck off, Graham. Want the tooth fairy? I'll show you a tooth fairy. Fuck off. This movie's bad.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know I say a nothing burger a lot, but that's really what this is.
To quote myself from a few weeks ago, what the hell was that? This movie, it goes so far off a cliff the second he pushes Christopher McDonald over. Because for one thing, Scott, I agree with you as far as, yes, he's not presented in a way where I expect this to just be a straight drama for 90 minutes. At the same time, I feel like the movie is so trying to convince you of that it feels so jarring when he actually does take steps to be murderous all of a sudden. Because it's a hard left turn when, like, he secluded a person and then tosses him to be shredded in a machine piece. And it's like, okay, this is ramped up exponentially from where we were as far as his level of subtlety that he wants.
The script, the director, everybody got bored too. So
it really feels like it, and it's oh boy. But outside of that, everyone's bad in this. Amy Irving's like all over the place with the hysterics at time. Like, it's just the only person I think is pretty good in this. The only two people I think are pretty good in this are Graham Greene and Christopher McDonald, because they're solid character actors. And I was especially impressed with Christopher McDonald because he's playing a genuinely nice person, which you don't generally see very often with Christopher McDonald. He generally plays, someone that's either sly or, somewhat
something else to him,
or just a straight up villain. Here it's like, I didn't want him to die. I didn't want to see him have harm come his way. He seemed like a reasonable person, which was like a nice change of pace. Regardless, though, Sutherland is This is such a. Is this the end of like Sutherland leads things?
He's got what, Puppet Masters?
Puppet Masters Puppet Masters isn't that like this? Is that?
It's
Well,
around
he's sort of
this
like,
time.
I mean,
94?
is he the lead or is he just sort of the showy villain?
I mean, it's a co-lead of him and maybe.
Again, I don't know. I've never seen the film.
He's got a lot of scenes.
Puppet Master, he's in that movie.
Yeah. But yeah, this, I mean,
but even then, that feels like him being like Harrison Ford in Force Awakens. Like, yeah, I did the whole Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing before. I can do it again. Like, I'm trying to think of him being like a lead character in a movie like this at any point, because he's past the 70s sex symbol status that he most certainly
had.
I mean, he's speaking of Hannibal Lecter. He's basically playing Hannibal Lecter in Backdraft 2 years earlier.
Yeah, Backdraft, he's doing that for sure. But regardless, here it is just the movie's badly made. That's the biggest issue. Like, it doesn't know how to handle any of this in a way that feels anything better than made for TV movie. Like, if this was made for TV movie, it'd be number one in the ratings for sure.
Yeah. Oh no, it's 100% made for TV.
Like you said, it's so like not campy, just like, but bad in a way where it's like, well, I'm watching this. Like, I don't know what to do with the time, but I'm certainly going to stand here to watch it. But yeah, it's a mess of a film as far as trying to tell any kind of story that has suspense in it. Ryder Strong's debut film, good for him, I guess.
Good for him.
I don't know. It's bad. It's a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this director, like, Heap has done like all TV and like shorts.
This does not surprise me.
Yeah, he has one other like feature. He's got a couple others after this, like Past Perfect and Hostile Intent. So his last thing he did was he's got a short out this year called You're It.
Oh, is it a making of Tag featuring Jeremy Renner?
It stars Megan Henry. I don't know who she is. A woman worried about her missing boyfriend goes to his house and finds herself trapped by a mysterious entity. So it's 9 minutes long. You're It. So Donald Sutherland's terrible in this movie. Like, it's bad. Like, he's got some horrible line where like, "Oh, don't lock the door! I'll break down the door!" And "Are you nuts or something? Shut the damn door!" He has this opening monologue that sounds like a MAGA speech. Like, I was like, what year? This is 93? And he's like, "I hate what this country has become," and all this stuff. I'm like, okay.
Well, Falling Down was a few months ago.
Like, what happened?
So yeah, this movie, like, I was like humming on, like, okay, he's just like so this is you guys are not wrong. This is a bad movie, but this is a bad movie that got me like shocked and giggling at different parts for weird way. Like, I was not at some point, like, I think it's the Christopher McDonald gets pushed in the shredder thing that I'm like, okay, what? And this movie does things like, it's got that fucking dream sequence / revelation that I didn't know what was going on. I was like, she's like, it's after Christopher McDonald dies, and like Amy Irving's having this like wet dream about him, and then he turns into Donald Sutherland in the bed, and then like Donald Sutherland is in the bedroom and like touching her, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? And then it's like, okay, so apparently he like molested her, and that's why the mom confronted the dad and he pushed her down the stairs and like, but like that scene is a whole lot of what the fuck's going on here? What, you're okay? So it's going all over the place, and then it like turns into like a desert escape movie, and then a boat chase movie, and then like, it is all sorts of different things that feel like some other movie that got canceled, or a couple other, they already had set pieces built and they threw them into this movie. When
it became a boat chase movie for a little bit, that's when I started laughing. I was like,
yeah,
I feel like I'm starting to get on the wavelength of this.
Like, I was like, this is fucking insane. And then there's a great one where they run through the desert. The kid's like, "Mom, he killed Calhoun." Amy Irving's like, "But he's not gonna get us." Like, it's her dad. Like, it's so funny. Like, she's bad. Like, oh man, this movie's so fucking nuts. So nuts.
How nuts is it?
I'll tell you. I half expected an end credit scene that would like leave it open that Sutherland was still alive and out there for another. Like, that's how crazy it is. Like, he kills himself.
Yeah, that didn't quite track.
He's like hanging on a cliff. He's like, "You know what? Fuck it.
You'll never forget me."
I'll be back in benefit of the doubt. Like this was so bug nuts. Like I don't think this is one of those like Miami Connection, The Room,
this is
or
not
Troll
like
2.
everybody should go for a midnight screening of this.
Yeah, no, but like the one time, if you're not expecting it, holy shit, it is a trip. Like when it gets through there. So I was telling somebody about it today. I was like, because I was asking about the podcast. I was telling them about what we were doing. I was like, oh, we got a doozy movie I watched for this one. And they're like, oh, I gotta see that. I'm like, I don't know if you should seek it out because it's hard to find. There's like no footprint of it. Like it has no box office presence, as you'll find. Spoiler at the end of the show. And like it just, yeah, it's not worth going to the Taiwanese or whatever sites you have to go to, click and get a bunch of pop-ups just for hit and play. But man, I was shocked by at least the second half of this movie was worth watching. But oh man, this is a wackadoodle movie. Like wow. So
it's certainly less boring than House of Cards. It has that going.
I was fuck House of Cards. This is what House of Cards needed. Instead, it had the
a jolting second half full of murder. That's what it needed.
Then it would have been even better.
Tommy Lee Jones is yawning compared to what Donald Sutherland's doing in this.
Which is basically, that's what Book of Henry is. It is a mix of House of Cards and Beyond.
That's why it's fucking awesome, Aaron.
So I guess we got that answer.
Hashtag justice for Book of Henry.
But I was saying, who was worse, Amy Irving in this or Kathleen Turner in House of Cards?
Probably Amy Irving in this.
Yeah, Amy Irving.
She has a lot of arms in the air acting going on.
Guys, is this the last like Amy Irving lead movie? No.
To be fair, I can't think of previous Amy Irving movies. So
I mean, I can't think of another movie with her between now and The Rage Carrie 2 that theatrically between this one and like I just off the top of my head without looking on IMDb.
I'm not one that can call out many Amy Irving movies to begin with. So.
Yeah, not a big Amy Summer.
It's not, no.
So yeah, Bug Nuts crazy, bad movie, but wow, okay. We did it. So this one did not chart, but let's go to the music charts for Scott here to talk about the weekly top 40.
Casey's biggest hits.
Casey Kasem. The top 10 of it, which we have that number 1, Week by SWV, has taken the top spot, knocking off Can't Hire. Oh, no. What did it knock off? Oh,
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson, that's right. Or no, she was number 2 last week.
Because she was knocked off, like you said.
All right, yeah, okay. Sorry. UB40, Can't Help Falling in Love, is at number 2. Remember from our movie Sliver. Yep. Some of these movies making us wish for slivers?
No.
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 Number 3 is Whoop, There It Is by Tag Team.
I can dig it.
Number 4, That's the Way Love Goes, Sliding Down, Janet Jackson. Number 5, Staying Strong, Knocking the Boots by H-Town. Number 6, moving up a spot, Have I Told You Lately by Rod Stewart. And then swapping spots with that song is Show Me Love by Robin S. Number 8, I'll Never Get Over You, parentheses, Getting Over Me by Expose. Number 9, jumping into the top 10 from a movie that came out much before the summer of 93 at 30 begins. I'm Gonna Be, parentheses, 500 Miles by the Proclaimers, which was made famous by Benny and June, which is not a part of this movie roster we're doing. It climbs up. So yeah, there we go. Da, 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 da. And then same genre song, number 10, Dre Day by Dr. Dre. So
of course, yeah.
So yeah, that was
DJs put them together at weddings and banquets.
You know, Scott, you know what they did on Dre Day?
What'd they do on Dre Day?
They freed Willy.
Fuck! How did I not see that coming?
I love there's a truck in the distance playing that song. I was like, did you see that whale jump over the wall?
Oh shit! Oh,
I knew we should come out of here a little more often.
Oh, you think he likes the beats?
I so want to see that version. There's like just a random couple of cars. It's like, you see that over
there? Oh, man. That guy...
It's not in slow motion. It just goes over. It's like, did you see that?
Are those people in the pickup being held at gunpoint? Is that Highlander 2's Michael Ironside?
They captured a whale with a tender.
He doesn't like anybody.
And the only one who could reach him
Would you like to do some tricks today?
was Jesse.
Big circles, buddy, big circles!
By winning his trust and making Willy his friend,
I love you, Willy. All right, boy! Come on, Willy!
it made Jesse a hero.
Yeah! Woo!
Free Willy, rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you.
All right. Free Willy is directed by Simon Windsor, written by Keith Walker.
Slam Evil.
Oh man, Evil gets slammed so much in this movie.
Oh.
It really does.
Written by Keith Walker and Corey Blackman. Corey Blackman. Starring Jason James Richter, Laurie Petty, Michael Madsen, Jane Atkinson, August Schellenberg, Michael Ironside, Richard Reel, Michelletti Williamson, or is it McKelty?
Michael T.
Williamson, and Danielle Harris. When a boy learns that a beloved killer whale is to be killed by the aquarium owners, the boy risks everything to free the whale. Which, back-to-back movies with wonderful people playing fathers like Michael Madsen. You always, dear old dad, Michael.
Eternal energy just beaming off of him.
Well,
this summer, kill the killer whale before the killer whale kills you.
So this was an event. This movie back then, and it was bolstered by a Michael Jackson song.
Before the film came out, Warner Brothers was trumpeting quite publicly that it had the best test screening results of basically any mainstream movie they had ever done. They knew they had a hit on their hands.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it made a shit ton of money.
It could get away with marketing the end of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
to be fair,
iconic shot of the whale going over the kid. And yeah, this movie was a big deal. And it was it pretty well reviewed too?
Yes.
Yeah. Solid reviews.
I mean, good reviews. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember I saw this, like, we went to the drive-in a lot during this time, but I saw this one at the drive-in. I can't remember what the Beast picture was at the drive-in.
Benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt, yeah. Yeah, I always like that. Later in the summer, I go to the Fugitive at the drive-in, and B-side is Sidekicks.
Ew.
That's so
Jesus.
Yeah, we didn't stay. But yeah, so Aaron, Free Willy, this would have been like your jam back then. How old were you? You were like 7.
Yeah.
7, yeah. So you'd been like, this was the best movie of the summer.
I mean, you're not wrong. It was my jam back then.
There
I saw
you
this with my mom.
Yep.
I remember this actually quite well. I remember seeing it with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't revisited this film in years. I had the VHS, but even then, I still haven't watched that since.
Clamshell case, right? It was special. It was special.
Probably have it somewhere, honestly. No, I was a fan of it when I was that age, in the same way that it's like Jurassic Park was raw. I was like, yeah, killer whales, that's cool and whatnot. Watching it again for the first time in so long, I had expected it to. I feel like it's so easy to make fun of this movie that I forgot about like the movie itself. And it is a good movie. I mean, like, it's certainly cheesy in its own way, but like, I don't think it's a bad film. And I think that comes from the fact that before you get to, the ending, which in itself is not even a bad thing. It's just a whale jumps over a thing. That's not ridiculous. It's just, it is what it is.
It's called Free Willy. Guess what the hell happens in the movie?
Yeah, and the whale jumps. I mean, that's, people pay to see whales jump all the time. So it's like, it's not really out of the ordinary for that to happen in a movie. But why that works though, why it earns, I think it's how it's filmed. It's because it's slow motion and it's like over the kid. He's like, yeah, we did it. But like, the reason that pays off is because it's a solid character film for the most part. Yes, there's the other side of it that has evil Michael Ironside and Richard Reel without a mustache. So it's like, is that Richard Reel? And it is. It has that stuff where it's like, we're gonna make a killing off this whale, this killer whale. They don't say that, but they should. But the storyline involving what is it, James Jason Richter,
Mm-hmm.
who stars in the next two. He's in the whole trilogy. He sticks around. I for one thing, I think he's good. He's better than the other kids we've seen in movies recently, which is a big fucking plus right there. But I like that story. I like the idea of a kid being pulled off the streets, being given a family that features one reluctant parental figure and one that's more embracive, along with him meeting new friends like Lori Petty playing a normal person in a film. And it even skates by with the Native American has ancient wisdom that he wants to, but like it manages to do that in just the right way that it doesn't feel too offensive for, what I assume is a bunch of white people making a movie. It's like, okay, you're skating by with this stuff. That's fine.
And we find out we have more than one go-to because Graham Greene was busy in Benefit of the Doubt. So
exactly.
He couldn't play this part.
He couldn't make the flights from the desert up to Northern Oregon. But regardless, I think all that stuff works well. I think especially being a family friendly movie, of course, it's not it's not like what's the Furlong Bridges movie we talked about, American
Heart.
Yes,
American Heart. Yeah, it's not going to be as gritty as something like that.
Yeah.
But you can see what I'm saying. Like there's that story that's certainly grittier. This is a family movie that's dealing with a real issue as far as kids that are out of foster homes or whatnot and have to deal with shit.
Oh yeah, it's not Rookie of the Year.
No, it's not.
But it's not American Heart. Yeah, I get it.
For sure. Like, and I feel like it does a good job of presenting that thing. It happens to have this gimmick of there's a killer whale involved or whatnot, and that stuff I think works too. Like, I mean, it's a mix of whale and animatronic whale, and it looks good. The thing that very much gave me deja vu was hearing Willy's like crying sound. That came right back into my memories. Like, oh, that's so sad. And it's not. I can't imagine that being real in any way whatsoever. But the fact they keep playing that sound is like, oh, I remember this very completely now. But like, yeah, I think whatever flaws you might want to find with it, I think it's for a movie like this in the realm of family films coming out at this time. It's like, this is pretty good. I can see why it worked as well as it does. Like, it's effective.
Yeah. Scott, were you too cool for Free Willy back then?
No, well, no. I mean, I saw it.
That was rarely too cool for anything.
This is true. I mean, I saw it when it was on HBO. I mean, I was always aware of it. It just wasn't anything I raced out in the theater to see it. I remember liking it. And this is the first time I probably watched it since, 29 years ago.
Yep.
And it fucking rocks. I was shocked for a lot of the stuff that Aaron said is that it is just, it reminded me in a skewed way of Dirty Dancing. And let me explain. You have the final reel, which has all the stuff that everybody remembers. That is a little cheesy, a little melodramatic or whatever. But before that, it's a real fucking movie. It's a real, authentic, occasionally raw character piece with the kind of specificity and sketched out and authentic. I used the word authentic twice. Characters that it's a real movie. You have Michael Madsen playing a nice guy, a flawed but genuinely caring and loving, foster father. You have Lori Petty, again playing a normal person. That's actually pretty cool. And you have the kids' anger and rage and resentment, which is presented as understandable and not just genuine, but almost morally correct. It's nothing that the movie ever judges him for.
It's why I'm sorry. It's why I don't like Angels of the Outfield, because I think this is a better version of that kind of thing as far as a kid that's doesn't.
Sorry, what was that?
It's why it's better than Angels in the Outfield to me. Like I was talking about that.
Oh God, yes.
Where like
I like Angels of the Outfield well enough, but yeah, this is a much better picture.
So like because it's doing like it's dramatic without being. Like I said, it's not gritty in this movie, but that movie, he seems like he's basically fine. Like, he cries once because his dad didn't come or something. It's like this movie like makes it feel like this matters if that things are the way.
And it's a kids film that is pitched at smart children rather than stupid adults. And slight spoilers for the sequel, but in the opening moments of the sequel, you find out his mother's dead. They find her body, and it turns out that she has another kid that ends up being his stepbrother.
That's not true in this one, though.
Well, that's right. I mean, but I apologize. What I mean is that this is a franchise that doesn't fuck around.
It follows through.
Yeah, it doesn't have the Wonder Park
but...
or whatever where she's got cancer, but your mom's going to be okay at the end. But I was shocked. Only again, because again, I hadn't seen this film in 29 years. at what just a really, really good movie it was. And as much as, you could say, and the performance of Jesse,
James Ritter.
Yes. Ritter. This is why I don't feel bad about shitting on, Last Action Hero and Rookie of the Year, because whether it's direction or whether it's just acting skill, but this is a genuinely good kid performance in service of a genuinely good movie. I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a note here about like, hey, we have another child actor leading things again. How's that? But like, he's good. Like, I think he only struggles some late scenes with the emotional anger, but at that point, it's far enough into this already. You give it to him that
and it also, because of where the character is, that struggling almost feels authentic to what how that character would act. He himself is also still trying to put up something of a facade of being stronger and tougher than he actually is. And again, it's one of those movies where it's mostly really nice, good people who do their best and stumble, that generally have good things happen to them. And Ironside's the asshole, but he's sort of like the only bad guy in the entire movie.
And it's not even like his stuff is, it's not maniacal, it's just profit driven.
Yeah, it's like,
it's not like he's not trying to murder the whale.
No, it's like,
right.
I'm not going to say, obviously you don't agree / sympathize with him, but it's like, you understand, he's in a real bad financial situation here.
Right, and he delivers that "God, I hate that whale" line so well. Like,
and that if the whale had, bucked up and performed that one damn time, then none of this would have happened.
Right.
I also like that he's wearing a suit for the most part. He's usually dressed in like leather jackets and stuff.
Yes,
his hair, and he's got hair.
He's got hair.
And he's got it's all. He's obviously wearing a toupee, but like it's great.
He is a villain who acts in a villainous way, but he is a reasonable villain.
I can't emphasize this enough. Also, Richard Reel without a mustache.
And mustache is
so strange. It's so strange looking at him.
It's like a body snatcher took his place or something. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I gotta say, we keep calling this a kids movie, but like, I think to give this movie some praise and stuff, I feel like it's just a movie about like, treatment of whales and is all that stuff. And are in character as a kid. Like, I feel like, it probably, sold family movies.
It is presented by literally WB's family line of movies.
Yeah, it is. But like, I feel this movie is like, part of the thing is, it's just our in character as a kid and everything. Cause like, it doesn't like tend to lean on those kid centric things like movies we've seen so far have done this summer. And we've had a lot, like towards the end, we like to talk about, what did we learn from this summer and what's one of the things that you've noticed? And I mean, there's kids movies with regularity coming out in summer of '93 that we've been going through.
I think at this point in time, and this is going to be a big talking point about the next movie we're going to talk about, and that there was a much clearer delineation. Pardon me if I mispronounced that.
Delineation. Don't try to do it again. That's not going to help anybody.
Delineation.
Between movies for adults and movies for kids.
Yeah.
And there were obviously 4-quadrant pictures like Jurassic Park or something like that. But, it's again, the example I always use is, you didn't expect adults to see Dennis the Menace on date night.
Right.
Brandon, I would say this is very close to being an Amblin movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, perfect.
It's not specifically designed for children, but it certainly has embraces a certain kind of spirit.
And again, because I think this is an important distinction when you talk about, Pixar or, some of the better franchisee blockbusters we've seen in the last several years. I do think there's a difference between being aimed at smart children versus, stupid adults. And I think, for example, some of the Pixar movies are very good because they are aimed at children, as opposed to, this is a movie for adults with pop culture references and just enough body humor to get a PG and, all that nonsense.
Yeah. This movie, it also feels like that family movie that like the others start chasing in terms of like how characters are developed and certain like beats and things that play with these movies this would be what they chased, which obviously it made a lot of money. So that's
I also think it's worth noting that, to a certain extent, when people complain about, there's no movies for regular Americans, whatever. Yeah, to a certain extent, that's a political dog whistle. I'm not oblivious. But also, you used to have mainstream genre films like this or Arachnophobia or Tremors that just took place in America.
Yeah.
With economically lowered middle class, regular Americans going about their day and dealing with a conflict. It wasn't, every movie wasn't, he's a rich gajillionaire who finds out he's the special. And, I do think that sentiment has sort of gone the way of the dodo bird of late. And maybe that's part of why I'm so into the Shazam franchise, because that does feel like a genuinely blue collar fantasy franchise in a way that a lot of the others don't. Even Spider-Man turned out to be, he's basically Tony Stark's, ward now.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But yeah.
Brandon, did you like this movie?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think I'm as high on it as you two are, but
I don't think it's much about I'm sorry. I want you to keep going. I don't think it's much about us being as high on it. It's just more of, I think we're genuinely surprised at how not bad it is.
No, it's definitely inoffensive. It's bad. Like all the castings, but like fascinating to be that they would put Michael Ironside and Michael Madsen in the same movie. Like you'd think Madsen, it'd become to a choice between the two to play the theme park owner, but no. You know what? Let's give Michael Madsen this is a weird time where Michael Madsen probably could be anything. He's not like stuck to one thing. He's generally intense actor, but he's given these options of like, maybe we could have him do some other stuff here.
Thelma and Louise is the same, where he's not a bad person.
Right.
He's the husband or whatever.
This sort of time he's, but the Getaway remake he's in too is around this time. So yeah, this is definitely off kilter for him, and this might be one of the first times I saw him in something. To think about it, yeah.
I didn't see Reservoir Dogs, so this is definitely the first time I saw him.
Yeah, so this would have been like something like that. Jane Atkinson I'd be more familiar with in 24, so that was
it's Karen Hayes, right?
Karen Hayes, yeah. And you know what? 2 hours of watching Lori Petty walk around in swimwear is not a bad way to spend your movie, but
good on the kid for keeping his eye on the killer whale.
Right. There's the big, like, this felt like a reason we have the don't touch the glass sign at zoos scene that was in there, where the kids were just obnoxious down there. I was like, I guess we need to really stress getting the point across about the nervous whale and such, but that was the scene I was like, okay, come on. It's almost like comedy sketch where it's almost like Clerks when they lock the door and all the people are like with that. But no, it's
got to build it's got to build that tension. You got to get
I guess so.
And I don't think it's too far from reality. I mean, it's not like the other whale parks have sterling reputations.
Yeah. I do think the finale delivers in the suspense department quite well. Even though it's going to happen, but like
that's what makes it neat, because it's marketed off the fact that this whale's going to jump over a wall at the end of this movie, and yet it's way different, but it's Titanic. It's like, boat's going to sink, guys. We know that's going to happen. Why? What's happening? What's going on? What's the context here? This movie delivers on that,
and it delivers in getting this kid believably gets these adults on board to do it. Like that could be really. That could screw the movie in if in the wrong hands. And this one actually, I buy it. It works. And then you get these nighttime sneak away scenes and everybody's starting to come together to get this to happen. And then the head off with, you cast Michael Ironside. So for a minute there, you're like, oh man, he's gonna win, isn't he? Because he's Michael Ironside.
And he's shotgun and blow these people away.
Yeah. So there's that. But it works. It functions. It's something that I think still could hold up easily today. And it's just in general solid movie for me. I am blown away by the franchising of this movie. Because it had an animated TV show that ran for 2 seasons with 21 episodes. They made the sequel, of course, Free Willy 2, The Adventure Home, which Richter returns, Madsen, Atkinson, Schellenberg, and Williamson, as well as casting Big Emmett Summer in it. Francis Capra and Elizabeth Pena are in the cast of the second one. Free Willy 3 then came The Rescue, which Richter and Schellenberg return. and Free Willy, Escape from Pirates Cove, in which nobody comes back, and Beau Bridges stars.
I assume like Randy Quaid's cousin.
Yeah, like
from National Lampoon's is just randomly in there for some reason.
And there's been no talk of like resurrecting this shit, right?
Well, the thing we haven't talked about is the fact that not only do we have these stars, but Kiko the whale became a huge star out of this, in the same way that like Bart the bear was a star. Like the whale was very much like in the news as far as its backstory and its history, and the fact that it got eventually released into the wild and then died of hypothermia. But like that was a huge. That's why it was, you know, much like dinosaurs, like the killer whale became super popular. It had a thing everyone could kind of harness around beyond just like, maybe you went to SeaWorld for a summer or whatever. Everybody saw this movie and they're like, yeah, this whale's great. We love the whale. Let's see more of the whale. Let's get all this whale news out of it. So
I could go to a place like Ohio and go to SeaWorld. The strangest place to have. Oh, well.
And, you know, eventually, if I recall, the whale was released from captivity because it was, you know, like the film basically implied, was doing pretty badly in captivity.
But it died in 2003, like shortly after it died, because it just wasn't used to that kind of, you know, it was in captivity for so long. It couldn't make do, and, you know, passed away.
Which is an awkward bit of which is an awkward footnote to the otherwise positive legacy of this picture.
I will say, one of the, you know, we all grew up with Simpsons in the 90s. The Free Willy spoof too, where the whale like lands on the kid, and they have like voice alike, and it's funny because it's like a Michael Madsen voice alike, so it has to be someone that's gruff. It's like, oh, what a mess! It killed our son.
Oh no, Willy didn't make it, and he crushed our boy.
What a mess!
I hate this new director's cut.
There's also I will note, between the last two films we've done, there's been there's a Little League game and Benefit of the Doubt, and there's a lot of baseball action when he's at home in Free Willy.
It's American.
Like,
America's pastime.
Keep with the Rookie of the Year and a lot of baseball.
Did Eddie Furlong have a mitt? Or he just had a bike, right?
Oh,
I honestly don't remember.
I don't think he did.
They seemed like if they had a chance, they're like roller skating or shit or whatever. They were doing other things.
The goal was to play catch, but the only thing I caught was death. So that's what
wicked case
happened. Yes, wicked case for a wicked heart. Anyway, so
who killed him in that movie? Who was the bad guy?
Oh,
it's not Sizemore. Who was the other like scuzzy guy they had? Who was his dealer guy?
I can't remember. Was it somebody?
It's not nobody.
I can't remember.
Hold on.
Movies ago.
You keep going.
American Heart. I can't remember if his dealer was somebody or not.
It's like a guy that's like not Mickey Rourke, but like the guy you get when you can't get Mickey Rourke.
But there was no baseball in that movie. I'm pretty sure.
No, there wasn't. Don Harvey. That's what it is. Okay.
Don Harvey. Okay.
Yeah, he has a face that's like, oh, they couldn't get Mickey Rourke for this one. All right.
Yes. All right. So, but also, speaking of Mickey Rourke, when you can't get him, you get Yancy to talk about Yancy's Tales from the Video Store.
I was living in the South Bay, and this fellow named Lance Lawson had just opened up this video store called Video Archives. And it really was a movie lover's heaven. It was really terrific. I was a customer there, and I really liked it. And eventually he asked me if I wanted a job. And I was like, yeah, I'd love a job here. This would be a dream. And it was. It was, until I became a director, it was the best job I'd ever had. And I ended up working there for like 5 years.
I've only really met and talked to Tarantino just a few times in my life. I don't think he would know me. We did have a really close friend in common who passed away a few years ago, who we were both still friends at the time, but I didn't know Tarantino at all. The last time I saw him was at this friend's party for his birthday. And at this point, Tarantino, I knew that he had bought all the Video Archives tapes and moved them into his house. It used to be William Friedkin's house, and he was now living in this house. It was William Friedkin's house, and he brought us up to watch That Darn Cat and Never a Dull Moment, which is another Disney movie. For my friend Steve-O, was his name, Steve-O, a wonderful guy, a guy I loved to death, who died, 10 years ago, maybe, too young, but he was there with Tarantino the whole time, and he's in Reservoir Dogs and he's in Kill Bill, got little cameo roles, and I love that guy. And the only thing I got to tell Tarantino as he walked by was, "Hey, thanks for this. And by the way, I have a copy of The Tenant, the archives copy of The Tenant, because I still had it when the store finally closed down. We packed it all up. I never had returned my copy of The Tenant." And he, "Okay, I want that copy back. I want the archives copy." I said, "Okay, I'll bring it back to you." And then I was going to bring him the archives, the copy of The Tenant back. Steve-O was going to have me drive up to his house to bring it back to him, which might have been a momentous occasion for me to meet him and talk to him. That was what Steve was trying to give me. But at the same time, believe it or not, I had been in this process of romancing this girl who worked with me at E with Steve-O. Steve-O and I worked at E Media Center's, E Television's Media Center, which is basically a big video store inside the E company. And somehow everybody from I used to work at Archives, now worked in the E. Well, not Tarantino, but a few of the Archives people now worked at E, and I got pulled into E because Robert now worked at E, and even Steve worked at E for a little while, and Arnie worked at E. Arnie worked at E until about 6 months ago, but or NBA became NBC. But we all worked together, and I never gave him that copy of The Tenant back, because that was like a fateful lunch where I decided to go with this girl to lunch. We went to lunch. And she was great. We were together for 7 years, and it was a great romance. So I can't regret that ever happened. But it's funny how little Tarantino moments are weaved through there. And then after our relationship, 10 years later, we were still sitting next to each other at work at E, and she shows me a picture of herself out at Halloween with her girlfriends, with this guy in a Mexican wrestler mask on a bus out at some Halloween thing. And she's like, "Who's that? Can you tell who that is in that Mexican wrestler mask?" And I'm looking, there's a picture of my girlfriend dressed to the nines, ex-girlfriend at that point, and her 3 pretty girlfriends. And the guy in the mask is clearly Quentin Tarantino. This is very strange. Very strange.
All like full circle. That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. We are now here with Hocus Pocus.
Oh, okay.
From Walt Disney Pictures, after 300 years, the Sanderson witches are back. And running amok.
Are you boys a little old to be trick-or-treating?
Hocus Pocus, rated PG. National sneak preview this Saturday and Sunday.
Directed by Kenny Ortega. Written by David Kirshner, Mick Garris, and Neil Cuthbert. Starring Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy, Thora Birch, Vanessa Shaw, Omri Katz, Doug Jones, and Charles Rocket. A teenage boy named
Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall. Let's not leave out the husband and wife duo.
Gare Bear and Pen Pen. A teenage boy named Max and his little sister moved to Salem, where he struggles to fit in before awakening a trio of diabolical witches that were executed in the 17th century. So, going to the script here with the people who wrote it, we have Neil Cuthbert, who had written Return of Swamp Thing, goes on to write Mystery Men, and he wrote Saint Elsewhere. You have David Kirshner, who is a Chucky producer from the beginning, and he also produced Frailty, lots of cartoons, and wrote American Tail. And then Mick Garris.
There's a lot of good credits going on here.
So Mick Garris and horror, Mick Garris is considered like one of those masters of horror, and he's a guy that he was director of Masters of Horror for a couple episodes, but he's one of those also that people say gets Stephen King, but I like the guy. I like listening to Mick Garris talk. He seems like a cool dude, but he directed Critters 2, which is the one where they become the ball and stuff, which is a fun movie. He did Freddy's Nightmares, Psycho 4, Stephen King's Sleepwalkers, Stephen King's Quicksilver Highway. Maybe his claim to fame is the Shining television miniseries from the 90s, the original one, and he did Stephen King's Desperation. But
I mean, I play God of War. I don't call myself a God of War.
When you direct when you're so I've always I felt want to be mean about McGarrett, and he's did a lot. He's he comes off the Dante tree. I know him and Dante did stuff together early on.
We're really related to
so
Mick Harris on this Hocus Pocus.
So I'm just like, well, these are the people like behind the scenes writing this. You got some people with some cred, but the Mick Garris being like this big horror master guy, I've always wondered about.
It's just a fun side tangent you're taking.
Yes.
Where like I don't think I've ever associated Mick Garris with this movie once, and I've seen it plenty of times.
Right.
But, okay, now that we've gotten your hatred for Mick Garris out,
I
of
don't
the
have.
way,
Oh yeah, my hatred for Mick Garris. Oh,
I mean, it's no riding the bullet.
This bone that you've been waiting to pick on this podcast for Mick Garris.
Yes. Oh, okay. So
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash it. So I saw this in the theater. So guys, before you speak your thoughts on Hocus Pocus, I want you to say 5 nice things about it that aren't backhanded or condescending.
5? That's a lot.
Who wants to go first?
I can do
Sarah
that.
Jessica Parker is stupid hot.
Okay. That's 1, Scott. You got 4 more.
I don't want to. My main point.
You
about
can
this
spoil Hocus Pocus.
Spoiled
No, I don't
benefit
mean
of the
spoil.
doubt.
I mean, it is an interesting example of generational nostalgia, part of which springs from the idea that, as noted in the previous conversation, there was a delineation between adult films and kid films. And comparatively speaking, Hocus Pocus was a Disney film aimed at very young children that nonetheless had child murder, moments of intrigue and terror. It's horny in a way that's almost subversive by today's standards. So I can certainly understand why young audiences that weren't used to seeing films of this nature pitched at them in 1993, or as they were younger watching it on Disney Channel reruns, would take to it.
Why would you double down on saying delineation again?
So that's 2. So that's 2.
That's
Aaron, help me here.
I like how this is predicated off the idea that none of us like this movie that's beloved by so many. It feels like autumn. It doesn't feel like a film that's made on sets primarily. It feels like a film that they went to a New England town. Are they in New England? Is that where they are?
Salem-esque
Salem,
town.
so,
yeah.
So it feels like a film that's set in autumn. Most of my niceties have to do with how much I hate the sequel, because I feel like that this feels like a real movie where that movie doesn't feel like a real movie.
Yeah, you can
so I think that's the benefit there. The women, the witches, obviously have chemistry. Jimmy Parker and Bette Midler, they all work well together. That's no surprise. I mean, they do the job they need to do as far as in a film like this that is a Halloween film for kids. The requirement there is to play up these big roles that are big going big kind of parts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to ask Bette Midler very hard to say go big in a role, and I do think she delivers exactly what that's supposed to be, along with the Jimmy and Parker. I think the kinds of characters they're supposed to be, they're delivering on those, and they work well together. I do think, by comparison to the sequel, the big musical number that takes place in this movie is fun. I think that is a fun sequence. It's ridiculous, but I do that's not a thing I see in movies very often at that time. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a swing. Then I enjoyed it. Doug Jones is great. Doug Jones, always innocent. He plays a big old zombie. I like seeing a zombie in a movie. This is like seeing a zombie in a kid's movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I like seeing a zombie that has his lips sewn together. That's fun. That's a fun idea.
Yeah.
What was that? 3? What are the other things?
See, Scott, it's not hard.
It really is. Kenny Ortega went on to do lots of better things. The High School Musical 1 and 3 are quite good. I think 2 stinks, but whatever. Descendants 1 is terrible because there's too much focus on the vamping adults, not unlike this picture. But Descendants 2 and 3, which shine the spotlight on the children, are much better.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So that wasn't one. That was just more of
that doesn't
the direct. What you're saying is the director did a bad job here, which is not a compliment for this movie.
Not a compliment.
You've seen my problem here.
There's a scene where they think they've killed the witches and they celebrate by the fountain that is the same fountain used in the Friends opening theme music.
Ah, okay.
That is amusing, but that's not a compliment. That's
no, it's just a fact that I like pointing out, because when you watch it, it's like, oh, that is that fountain.
I think it's cool they kill a kid in the opening scene.
Actually, it is surprisingly dark. It does it, and it has no take backsies in that regard as well, which I enjoy. Same with like Casper, for example, which is also like it's predicated on the idea that there's a dead child in a ghost body and they're trying to bring it back.
So, Aaron, did you see this in the theater when it came out?
I did not. I rented it, probably because my mom or my dad were just like, "Why are we seeing a horror movie in the summer?"
Did you like it when you first saw it at a young age?
That's a fun question, because I was not unknown to dislike movies, regardless of what age it was aiming at. Like
I saw it in the theater. It's good.
Like I never liked Hook. Like that was never like, oh, it was good when I was a kid. I none of that. So same with like Doubtfire. There's a lot of Ron Williams is great, but I did not like a lot of his 90s kids movies. Let's see. Did I like Hocus Pocus? I can't say that I felt any significant way about it, is the best way I can put it. I can't say that I watched it as like, oh, this is terrible. But I can't say that I watched it and thought, oh, this is great either. I feel like I watched it, I was like, no, okay, witches.
Yeah, I watched it and then like never again. Like I always remember the witches as like characters as some sort of iconography, but like I didn't remember a damn thing from that, like the movie, like at all. I remember like Omri Katz and Vanessa Shaw were in it because he had this run
Erie,
here
Indiana,
this time, Erie, Indiana, and he had Matinee, and then like apparently he's a hairstylist now and does Joe Dante's hair.
And I knew Birch because of that, and like Monkey Trouble.
Birch. But so like and then it had this resurgence at some point, and then I like watched it again, and nothing was familiar even in it, and I was like, huh. But like I can't tell you if I left the theater that day going, that was awesome or that was fun. I didn't remember a thing from it when I first saw it.
I had seen it enough on like Disney Channel reruns over the years.
Okay.
Where I necessarily like knew the movie, but it wasn't one where, I needed to like put up a mounting defense over like, oh, this is so good and the same, which is very similar. I don't like to keep bringing up Hook because I don't care to bring up movies I don't care for all that often, but it's the same thing where it's like this, going into college, people talk about the movies they like or what they, what they still, stand up for, whatnot. And it's like Hocus Pocus was a big one of those as far as, we watch it every Halloween because it's fun and everything. It's like, okay, okay, it doesn't really mean anything to me, but that's good on you.
Scott, you can talk.
No, it's and I'll be honest, if I had seen the film in its initial run, and I probably would have said that is a bad movie, whatever, life goes on, and never given it another thought. But I do get cranky when films like this take on this skewed, it's good actually generational nostalgia thing, especially when we're in the streaming wars where you get a Hocus Pocus 2 that exists, and instead of it being some direct-to-video whatever that we could kind of ignore, it becomes a major chess piece in the giant industry-wide streaming war, and we have to pay attention to it. And it's terrible.
Just like
I think by default I liked it better than the first one because I like Sam Richardson.
But
some of the adult actors are actors that I enjoy seeing regardless. So by default, I was more entertained.
That streaming numbers on it, the claim are humongous. Would it have translated to theaters at all?
I mean, I don't think it would have been a blockbuster or anything, but I think they would have, if they had given it a conventional theatrical release, I think it would have made enough to justify the marketing campaign. Because again, when you've already made the movie, the only thing extra you're spending is theatrical marketing.
I assume it didn't cost much to make to begin with. So that's in its favor.
Right.
Like you can't argue the same for certain like Netflix blockbusters that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and you definitely know they would not make that money back in theaters.
Yeah,
Red Notice would not make that much money in theaters. Like,
having said that, Hocus Pocus 2 seems to be the exception in terms of this, because Willow didn't last a season. Nobody watched Disenchanted. And a lot of these, the Mighty Ducks barely crawled to 2 seasons. Turner and Hooch lasted 1 season, etc., etc., etc.
It's pretty amazing how Mighty Ducks, like, I know it's not Emilio's fault necessarily, but it's really easy to lay the blame at Emilio for it not going on longer than it did.
And again, because we don't have the ratings beyond it did not appear in the top 10 in any given Nielsen week, it could have just been that nobody watched it.
That's because it's a show that exists because of nostalgia, much like Hocus
Exactly.
Pocus too.
But I mean, and again, I think Hocus Pocus is the exception to the rule, saying that you could get people to watch Disney Plus by taking every single freaking thing they own the rights to and making a TV show or movie, revamp of it.
That's
Nobody
fair.
watched the Night at the Museum thing. Nobody watched the new Ice Age movie. Nobody watched the new Diary of a Wimpy Kid cartoon.
Because I could see you could build up an event around Hocus Pocus, especially when you have the three leads involved again, and it's such a specific kind of cult property. Where like Mighty Ducks isn't a cult property; that's just a sports movie that I might know. Like that's
Right.
it's different. So getting back to this movie, to Hocus Pocus, I'm trying to like determine what it is I don't like about this movie. I haven't even really thought about that.
For me,
I think it's
No, go ahead.
It's a movie that I think you see, like if you see it as a kid, you distance from it after a long time. It feels like a movie that sounds a lot cooler when you talk about it and remember things, like chatting with someone who also hadn't seen it in a while, than actually sitting down and watching it play out. Like they're, oh, I killed a kid. There's this zombie with his thing sword up. They do this, and it pictures from it, like seeing an excerpt scene, fills you with something differently than having watching it already. Like sitting through it's like chore-ish almost. And then
I see, I agree there. That's the things I can point out to. Like the last time I watched it was before the sequel came out, just to be fresh on it. And I can remember it being like the pace is all over the place. There's awkward beginning stuff. Like there's bullies that aren't really bullies, but they are. That's just like, why is this even in here?
Well, one of my favorite parts was like not even to do with the witches or anything. It's when that guy is like that cop guy hassles him, and it ends up he's just a guy in a Halloween costume screwing with kids.
Yeah.
They thought it was a cop. Like that was funny. They had that funny bit with the guy dressed as Satan at the house, and then it keeps going. Like it's pretty funny at first with their first couple lines, and then it doesn't stop.
I guess that's what it amounts to. There's a lot of labored bits that feel like now we're doing something that's not for the kids specifically, but it's not really entertaining anyway. So it's like, okay, that's.
Well, I think it's an example. I think to a certain extent, the film has some quote unquote content that is, again, pitched or dumb, not dumb adults, but sort of like, okay, we're stuck here because we took our kids because there's nothing else to see.
Here's a few gimmies that don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And
for me, the one big reason why the movie is bad is because I think it's more interesting. The idea of the movie is more interesting than the movie that we get. And while the three adult witches are certainly having fun, so much of the movie is them just standing around by themselves, talking to each other and barely interacting with the world around them, which is like the worst kind of improv for a feature film. And it's just boring.
It can be, and I would give the sequel some credit for as far as it at least allows them to have some scenes of like, it's 2022, like what's going on now with witches, like that's.
But even some of that, and again,
it's bad for the most part.
It's still a bad movie. What puzzled me about that is like they were shocked and puzzled by technological advancements that totally existed in 1993.
Yeah, that's why it's a real give or take in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also there's a vibe to this movie and a feeling, a way it plays out, and even budgetary and design, that there was a show or a couple shows back then, like Nickelodeon had a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? If you'd have slapped Are You Afraid of the Dark presents Hocus Pocus on this, I'd have believed it was like just a little glorified version of that episode of television for that, because it just kind of, it has that like, I'm not too dark type thing. We'll do dark things, but we're kind of like happy. And then just the overall like look of it and feeling kind of feels like that. And I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark? I watched that all the time. And then there was a Goosebumps show around the same time too. I believe that kind of had that vibe. And it feels like one of those. But like this is the movie, like, Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Night. Well, here's the kids show presenting their horror movie, and it kind of feels like that to me. It kind of has that vibe.
Yeah, it's like I'm so into the idea of gateway horror. We talked about that in Out Now. We had a whole episode focused on gateway horror for like younger audiences, which is a cool thing to have. And so like on that level, I could appreciate the notion of, we made a film about like witches that actually kill, suck the souls out of children. That's like what you guys are saying.
Hey, hold on. He's about to get his soul sucked.
Thank you. That's the kind of thing where, yes, like you guys are saying, you talk about it, that seems like a neat idea. In execution, whether it's direction, which it likely is, or just like not having a handle on how to properly do this. Yeah, it does feel like it just kind of a labored thing. So my question now is, what is it that, beyond the idea of nostalgia as a powerful drug, like what is the appeal to certain audiences? Like, for example, we're three guys talking about Hocus Pocus. Is there like is there like a feminist, like positivity aspect to this? And it's hard to think there is, since it's about three women that just want to kill children. Like,
I think its rise and raging cult popularity is largely female, from what I'm sure that's what I would say. So maybe there's
beyond like Bette Midler fans for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
maybe there's something like that doesn't click with the three of us, and that's a-okay. Like, we're just giving our thoughts on the movie, and if you like it, that's perfectly fine. And you got your sequel that was a streaming
I guess my only counterpoint to that, and I don't disagree with you for the record, but for me, my biggest problems with the film are the adult stuff, not the kid stuff. I can forgive the kid stuff because it's kid stuff, but for me, what kills the movie is how lethargic and lifeless the trio, their scenes are. Where again, they're just standing around not doing anything.
Come on, Scott, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
Exactly. I expect more from my Hocus Pocus.
Title drop.
Yeah, I know.
It's so awful. I'm sorry. I hate the title drop.
But no, you're probably right in the sense that a lot of the generational nostalgia does come from young girls or they were young girls when they saw this film, either in theaters or on VHS or on Disney Channel. And great, wonderful, whatever. But, if we're talking about, do I think this is a good film? No, it's not. And I'm sorry, Scream 4 still sucks too.
Jesus.
And I'm tired of pretending it doesn't.
I was surprised though. Like, there's this big opening scene, but then the witches don't show up for like till after the 30-minute mark. So that I'm like, that's probably why we have this bit stretched like opening scene. That was kind of surprising to me.
You need to establish the fact that they're a threat to some degree, and before
what happened. We could make a whole movie on that. Do that. Scott, I will say, you mentioned Sarah Jessica Parker. This is the first time, because like, I was sold as that she was some attractive item back in the day, but it was this movie where I'm like, okay, she is an attractive item.
I had already seen LA Story.
Okay.
I already knew.
You already Gotcha.
I fell head over heels. I was like 10 or 11, give or take, when it came out. So yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm sitting here going, why the hell was this movie released in July? And then I started looking up. So horror-ish titles that would have competed with this in the fall of '93 from September to October. You have The Good Son, probably not a competition with Hocus Pocus. Warlock, The Armageddon, not the same.
Kids love Warlock.
I threw Malice in there. There's the comedy Fatal Instinct, but
kids love Fatal Instinct.
Why would you throw okay?
Here it is. The wide release of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Bingo!
But you could have had September.
The irony, of course, is that Disney was scared shitless.
I was going to say, they hated that movie.
Yeah. So, I was like, okay, well, you kind of, I don't know, but it is what it is.
All's well that ends well-ish.
We got Hocus Pocus 2 last year, and we got The Corpse Bride many moons down the road, and a Frankenweenie. So things happen for everyone. But what happened with Hocus Pocus at the box office this week, Scott? Let's move on.
Nothing good.
Oh no.
Where's the actual list? There we go. Hold on, sorry. The Firm was #1 for its third weekend in a row. $13.3 million, dropping 26%.
It was a dead heat for like 1 and 2 this week.
Oh yeah, I think they were sort of neck and neck for a while, by the way. Anyway, 96 million after 17 days. In the Line of Fire would earn 13 million, dropping just 14.5%, adding 186 screens for a 2,089 screen release. It would earn 36 million after 10 days. It would eventually cross 100 million domestic. #3, Jurassic Park, still over $10 million in its 6th week of release, with 29 dropping 29%, losing a whopping 8 screens. It is still the widest released movie in the top whatever at this point, with 557 theaters. It would earn $256 million by the end of day 38, whatever that is. Coming in at fourth place was Hocus Pocus, earning a slightly disappointing $8.1 million. It would eventually leg out to a disappointing $45 million worldwide on a $28 million budget. Coming in fourth place was Free Willy, earning approximately $7.9 million in 1,476 screens. See, this is back during a time when, if you were in the middle of a crowded summer season and you had films like The Firm and In Line of Fire and Jurassic Park hogging screens, you might have a theoretically big movie like Hocus Pocus and Free Willy only opening on around 1,500 theaters.
Yeah. Hocus Pocus beat Free Willy opening week.
Temporarily, yes. But Free Willy would stick around for a very long time.
It's almost like our opinions of Hocus Pocus match up to the world in 1993.
We were right then! We were right! Dear God, we were right! And we were right about Last Action Hero, Aaron. We were right. Anyway.
Here's
But Free Willy. 1,476 theaters weekend 1. Weekend 2, it adds 461 theaters. Thanks to terrific word of mouth. I think it got an A+ on Cinema Score, but don't quote
me on
that.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. It jumped 10% in weekend 2 for an $8.6 million second weekend. It wouldn't drop below 30% ever, as far as I can find, between now and mid-October. And it would eventually earn approximately $77 million domestic and $153 million worldwide on a $20 million budget. Once again, movies made a shit ton of money back then because they didn't all cost $100 million.
And opening at $7 million wasn't the end of the world.
Yes.
Today it'd be like, oh, it's done.
Well, mostly... Well, even then, most of the time that was, not a great opening.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't on a ton of theaters, and Warner Brothers knew what they were doing. They knew they had a crowd-pleasing word-of-mouth family hit. They knew Hocus Pocus was terrible.
It was the greatest show.
It was the greatest show.
It's the greatest show. And they were selling soundtracks too.
Yes, and Michael Jackson doing his part.
That video, the music video was playing a lot. I remember seeing that music video all the time.
River. Did they have any like fast food place tie-ins for Free Willy? Long John Silver's, yes.
Jesus Christ!
I don't know.
It tells itself.
I don't know. Wait, hold on. Free Willy kids meal at Long John's.
Are you being serious, or is that a joke?
There's a
commercial. Eat a piece of killer whale with every meal.
Oh my God!
Wait, are you serious?
I hope hold on. I'm checking this out. I will add this commercial.
Oh my God, you're not kidding. I thought you were making a joke.
Oh my God. Oh, no way. Hold on. Wait, I watching this commercial with this woman trying to arouse me.
Wait, what?
Oh, here we go. And oh, I'm sorry. Free Willy 2 had the tie-in.
Go!
But still, that's awful. With every
that is
fish
amazing.
Sandwich,
But
you
nonetheless.
get of all the places, of all.
Come see Babe Big in the City, and then have a great meal at Honey Baked Ham.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Smash that subscribe button. Coming in sixth place was Sleepless in Seattle with $7.3 million, dropping just 28% for $72 million total after 28 days. Rookie of the Year made $6.6 million, dropping just 27% for $25 million after 10 days. Son-in-Law, solid legs for these pictures, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe because you don't have a juggernaut that's, it's going to be a while before we have in fact, I don't know if there is a juggernaut on the horizon offhand.
The Fugitive?
Yeah, my mistake. Anyway, I'm a fucking idiot. Anyway, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with 3.5 million in 9th place. Dennis the Menace in 10th. What's Love Got to Do with It with 2.7 in 11th place. And oh no, Unforgiven is no longer in the top 20. What a shame.
Man, that Last Action Hero just fell off the face of the goddamn earth
because it's like, terrible.
It's just amusing. It's just like, you know who's still kicking ass? Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
Switchblade Sam will not go.
Made in America had a bigger impact.
Yeah, Made in America missed that one in the top 10. That was nice to see all the time. Dave is,
Last Action Hero is in 13th place, by the way, making a whopping $1 million in its 5th weekend.
There we go.
Right above, barely above Cliffhanger, which in its 8th weekend made $1.3 million. Wow. So Stallone wins that round.
Wow, that's the story that was July 16th to 18th, 1993.
Poetic justice indeed. Wait a minute.
Well, Scott and Aaron, appreciate you joining me as always. Before we sign out, let people know where they can keep up with you, Scott.
TheWrap.com and Twitter at Scott Mendelson.
He's got an Instagram account and he never uses it.
This is true. It's totally blank.
Follow him.
If you want, it'd be pretty boring.
Aaron.
You can find me at We Live Entertainment, where I write my movie reviews, and I'm on Wise to Blue for Blu-ray and Criterion reviews. I host the show Out Now with Aaron and Abe with my friend Abe. We talk about weekly movie releases. Always a lot of fun there. And I am on Twitter at Aaron's PS4.
All right, and I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD, written work at wisesoblue.com. Also, check out the YouTube channel where you can watch video. If you're listening on the podcast, there are video versions of these episodes with little extra trinkets in them, if you like. And you can see Scott as he talks, as his camera functions. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. He makes hand motions, everything else like that. And also there's other different contents that go on there as well. Next week, Aaron and I have another stakeout as things get wilder with Scott finding some poetic justice for the film adaptation of Coneheads. All that and more as the summer of 93 at 30 continues.
It's the summer of 93 at 30.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. The Summer of and News themes by Press Maxon. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at thebrandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.